Good day, everyone. Hope you're enjoying your day. I wanted to talk about a few topics like why some relationships fail, and kind of talk about um, the causes of that, um, and also kind of get into a little bit of you know um, some other topics in terms of biases in relationships, and why some people we have good positive thoughts towards. Got into a little bit of trauma and see how that affects relationships, and just go from there. I was kind of thinking about that. I did um, a discussion on why some relationships succeed, and it's interesting because I was thinking about this, and there's been not just romantic relationships, just kind of relationships with anybody in general. There's some relationships that have lasted kind of long term, and in my life, and then there's also been some that have not lasted long, or if there was criticism, or if there's something else going on, some type of something negative going on, and then the relationship sometimes they don't last very long. And anyway, so I did an AI search. It was why do some relationships fail? And the short answer is relationships fail most often because of persistent negative communication patterns, unmet needs or goals, and unresolved personal issues like trauma or attachment wounds that erode trust and intimacy over time. These problems are usually multiple and interacting, not a single cause. Common root causes: toxic communication patterns, repeated criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling predict relationship breakdown because they destroy emotional safety and connection. Growing incompatibility or drifting apart. Partners who slowly live parallel lives or pursue different life goals often lose shared meaning and motivation to stay together. Unresolved trauma and attachment wounds. Past trauma can create high expectations, fear of rejection, or self sabotaging behaviors that repeatedly undermine relationships. Lack of effort, trust, or emotional availability. When one or both partners stop investing time, empathy, or repair after a conflict, resentment and distance grow. How these factors interact. Problems rarely act alone. For example, unmet needs can make someone more critical. Criticism breeds defensiveness, and defensiveness leads to withdrawal. Withdrawal increases loneliness and temptation to seek connection elsewhere. Over time, this feedback loop makes repair harder. Practical guide to spotting and addressing risks. Key considerations: frequency of negative interactions versus positive ones. Stable couples tend to have many more positive than negative exchanges. Shared goals and daily rhythms. Check whether life plans and values still align. Personal history. Notice if past trauma or attachment patterns are shaping reactions. Reflection prompts to use privately. Do I feel respected and safe when I bring up hard topics? Are we moving towards similar futures or pulling in different directions? Do my reactions echo old wounds more than present reality? Actionable steps. Learn repair skills. Practice soft startups, active listening, and explicit apologies to interrupt negative cycles. Rebuild shared life. Schedule meaningful time, revisit goals, and create small rituals of connection. Seek help when needed. Individuals or couples therapy is especially important when trauma or chronic patterns are present. Risks and limitations. Quick fixes rarely work. Deep patterns take time and consistent practice to change. Not all relationships should be saved. Abuse, persistent contempt, or refusal to change are legitimate reasons to end a relationship. So then I asked, why is it that some people I have persistent positive thoughts towards, while others I have neutral or negative thoughts towards? People stick in your mind because your brain tags some people as rewarding, familiar, or safe, while it treats others as irrelevant or threatening. Those tags come from similarity repeated positive interactions, group membership, attachment history, and selective empathy. Reasons you have persistent positive thoughts. Someone, familiarity and repeated positive experiences. The more pleasant interactions you have with someone, the more your brain links them to reward and comfort, making positive thoughts automatic. Similarity and shared identity. People who share values, background, or group membership feel like us, which increases liking and attention. In-group bias makes you favor people who seem part of your circle. Reciprocity and perceived cooperativeness. When someone reliably helps, trusts, or cooperates, you view them as morally good and desirable to keep around. Choosing cooperative partners also signals social value. Selective empathy and emotional resonance. Your brain's empathy systems respond more strongly to people you see as similar or morally aligned, so you feel and think about them more. Attachment and personal history. Early attachment patterns and past relationships shape who triggers comfort versus anxiety. People who match your secure attachment cues become mental anchors. How these factors combine. These influences stack and reinforce one another. Similarity increases empathy. Empathy makes interactions feel rewarding. Reward increases attention and memory. Attention makes future positive thoughts more likely. Over time, this creates a self-sustaining preference loop rather than a single cause. Quick self-check and decision prompts. Do I notice more positive memories of recent positive interactions with this person? Do we share values, groups, or goals that make them feel like one of us? Am I responding to who they are now, or to past needs and attachment patterns? Practical steps to shift your patterns. Increase exposure to people you want to like. Familiarity breeds positive associations when interactions are pleasant. Look for shared values and small cooperative acts. Noticing reciprocity and kindness builds positive tagging. Practice perspective taking for neutral and negative people. Deliberate cognitive empathy can reduce selective empathy gaps. Set boundaries when negative patterns repeat. If someone reliably triggers harm, limiting contact protects your well-being. Risks and limitations. Biases are automatic and hard to override. Deliberate practice helps but won't erase instincts overnight. Not all preferences are healthy, and in-group favoritism can blind you to others' needs and reinforce unfairness. So then I asked, so our relationship history creates sort of a bias for certain types of people in the present day? And the answer, yes. Past relationships create mental templates that bias who you notice, trust, and prefer today. These templates can come from attachment patterns, learned rewards, and transference of old expectations onto new people. The short answer, your brain builds relational blueprints from earlier caregivers and partners. In new encounters, it automatically matches people to those blueprints, producing positive, neutral, or negative reactions before you have full information. Why past relationships bias present choices? Attachment working models, early caregiving, and repeated partner interactions form internal models of safe versus threatening others. Those models shape expectations and emotional responses in new relationships. Transference and the relational self. When someone resembles a past partner in behavior, tone, or role, your mind can transfer feelings and scripts from that past relationship onto the new person, producing instant familiarity or alarm. Learn from experience. Repeated positive or negative interactions teach you what to seek or avoid. Those lessons become preferences and red flags you apply automatically. How this shows up in everyday life. Instant liking or distrust with little information. You feel right or off quickly. Repeating patterns. choosing emotionally unavailable partners because the pattern is familiar and therefore easier to predict. Overgeneralization, where one bad or good relationship skews expectations for many future partners. What you can do about it. Notice the trigger. Pause when you feel an immediate strong reaction and ask, which past person does this remind me of? Gather new data deliberately. Slow down early judgments by seeking concrete evidence of the new person's behavior over time. Practice corrective experiences. Intentionally create interactions that can contradict unhelpful templates. Get help when patterns are entrenched. Therapy can map your relational templates and teach strategies to change them. Risks and limits. Bias is adaptive but imperfect. Templates speed decisions but can mislabel people when contexts differ. Not all preferences are healthy. In-group bias or avoidance of difference can limit growth. Balance safety and with openness. And then I asked, as last question, can a relationship fail due to someone's past trauma? I've kind of noticed this in sometimes with myself and sometimes with other people. So that's why I asked this question. It isn't even kind of like it's like all romantic relationships should be friends. Like sometimes there's past trauma that that can get in the way of things. And can a relationship fail due to someone's past trauma? The answer is yes. Past trauma can absolutely strain or even break a relationship, not because the traumatized person is too damaged, but because trauma reshapes how someone interprets safety, closeness, conflict, and trust. The key is that trauma affects patterns, not character. The core idea: trauma changes the nervous system. It can make someone hyper alert to danger, quick to shut down, afraid of abandonment, uncomfortable with vulnerability, overly self-protective, or dependent on reassurance. None of this is intentional, but these reactions can collide with a partner's needs, creating cycles that feel personal even though they're not. How trauma can lead to a relationship breakdown. Misinterpreting neutral behavior as threat. This is one that's very like I see this in quite frequently. A partner's silence, stress, or distraction can feel like rejection or danger. This leads to overreacting, withdrawing, and assuming the worst. Over time, the partner may feel confused or blamed. Difficulty trusting or relying on others. If someone learned early that closeness equals danger, they may keep emotional distance, avoid commitment, sabotage intimacy, test their partner's loyalty. This can exhaust even a patient partner. Number 3, emotional flooding and shutdown. Trauma survivors often swing between fight or flight, arguments, panic, defensiveness, and freeze. Numbing, shutting down, disappearing emotionally. Partners may feel locked out or overwhelmed. Number 4, unhealed wounds shaping expectations. Old patterns get projected onto new relationships. You're going to leave me like everyone else? If I depend on you, I'll get hurt. Love always turns into pain. These beliefs can become self-fulfilling. And number 5, uneven emotional labor. If one partner is constantly managing triggers, the other may feel responsible for their emotions, afraid to speak honestly, like they're walking on eggshells. That imbalance can erode connection. But here's the important part. Trauma doesn't doom relationships. Plenty of couples thrive when the trauma is acknowledged, both partners understand the patterns, communication is intentional, and healing is supported through therapy, boundaries, self-regulation skills. Relationships fail not because someone has trauma, but because the trauma goes unaddressed. The couple doesn't have tools to navigate it. The patterns become entrenched and painful. Healing is absolutely possible, and relationships can become stronger through the process. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Yeah, I just wanted to discuss that topic because I thought it was interesting. I know it's something I've been thinking about. Anyway, hope you are enjoying your day.